As I speak to you today, everybody is having their own battle. You know, there's a huge battle in the Middle East, but for me, the past few weeks, I was battling this serious flu. Now, but I want to talk about what's going on in the world. You see what's going on in the Middle East, especially on the Eurasian continent, what you would call, also in on the African continent, in South, the whole world, South America, North America. During the 1960s, African countries, even during the 1950s, 1960s, African countries in the global south, whether it was in the Middle East, leaders emerged. A lot of these leaders, for example, in Africa, people like Kwame Nkrumah, Modibo Keita, Sekou Toure, Patrice Lumumba, and so forth. These were intellectuals. These were what you would call today activists. These were class. Let's call them politicians for now, but these were actual leaders. These people were what you would call moderate leaders. At the time, they were considered to be radical, which I will explain why I say that. But going forward, we realize that these people were actually moderate. These leaders were taken out, in a lot of cases, assassinated, overthrown through military coup and military uprising. And now we're in the 21st century. We're in it's 2026. On the African continent, we're seeing the rise of these military leaders and the destabilization by Western forces, imperialist forces, has turned around to haunt a lot of them. For example, France. One of France's main tactics to overthrow a lot of these leaders and to undermine the movement for sovereignty and independence was to carry out military coups, military takeover, and assassination. Let's be blunt. That's what happened to Thomas Sankara. He was taken out. Modibo Keita overthrown, the leader of Togo, the first leader of Togo. And the reverse is happening. And I believe as this new liberation struggle takes a hold in Africa and throughout the world, these leaders that will come up are going to realize that the way of resisting, as in the past, whether it's through intellectualism, through these kind of like explaining to the population and so forth to get, and then explaining to these countries that wants to continue to dominate through neocolonialism, the way of resisting will be more hard-lined. Meaning, as you've seen, these leaders in the Sahel are military leaders. As in the past, military leaders were used to take out the politician. And this is what is happening in the Sahel. They've realized that politics, this this type of democracy that was imposed on a lot of these countries is not sufficient enough to liberate these countries to have full independence and sovereignty and economic independence. So therefore, they're taking more of a military role. That is what have been used in the past to overthrow these revolutionary leaders. Also, assassinations. I'm not calling for these, but I'm saying it is a possibility that these hardline leaders might emerge in the future throughout the world because they realize the elites are very, first of all, the elites of these countries are very brutal, gag their population. Any sign of political deviation from the norms, which is neocolonial domination, is put out brutally by a lot of these politicians, whether they claim that they're democratically elected or not. They are very, very brutal, which means those who are coming is going to be as much as what that is towards these leaders, or even worse. For example, there was a coup d'etat in Benin, and you see the brutal reaction by France and Nigeria. This is putting, this is my assessment, this is my analysis. First of all, I'm not calling for any of this. I'm just making, I'm just analyzing what I think might happen. Because it's it's logical that this will go in this direction. If there was to be another coup d'etat in West Africa or African country, just imagine the route they will take because they saw what just happened. And the more you push against people, especially if they're ideologically uh, convinced and if they're determined, the more they will push back. So, therefore, going forward in the future, things like this might happen, and it's likely that there are more hardline leaders that will emerge. And you can take a look throughout the world. If we take a look at, especially in the Middle East, in Iran, there was a prime minister that was overthrown, and they brought in this family ruler, and then they was overthrown. But those who replaced them was more online. If you are brutal against philosophers, if you're brutal against, people like Walter Rodney, these were just philosophers writing book and activists that are that are peacefully seeking freedom and peacefully seeking sovereignty for people or their peoples. Those movements can retreat to more religious, well, to a more religious space, to a more spiritual space. They can retreat to anywhere, whether it's in the military. So as you realize that in the Sahel, there's a lot of military leaders that have came up. So therefore, you're going to see a lot more, but they can come from different. For example, in a country, the military itself might not take over, but this can come from anywhere in society, because when you attack one space, they can retreat, they will retreat to another place, and then you won't see coming. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the elites and politicians of the world that are ruling countries and nations today, it should be wise for them, because what is going on in the world right now, it cannot continue. Especially if you look at a lot of developing countries, something will have to give, something will have to break. So therefore, the elite has to. I don't know. I don't think they will give up their position. I don't think they will ever listen to their population. For them, they don't want to give up their position of privilege, of domination, because it's not. Sometimes it's not even about money. It's about power. So this is where I believe the world is going. You're going to see a lot more chaos, a lot more uprising of nation, especially the youths nowadays. Things like this will continue to happen in the future. So in the next, I don't know, the next 10, 20 years, we're going to look at a whole different planet, in my opinion. This is what I think. First of all, I'm not calling for any of those things. I'm just putting things out there that something like this is a possibility. And the world, the system, the world, the way the world is running, such imbalance in wealth, in even education and so forth, it cannot continue. So therefore, we need a new structure within nations and so forth. Especially, we advocate for the unity of Africa, but not just unity as we see it, but a new system that is very fair, that is equitable to the population. Everybody get their fair share, not just opportunity. You can have an opportunity, but everybody get their fair share. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's our thought for today, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you.